Hey everybody, welcome to Geeks for Geeks. This is Abhay, and in this video we are going to create a very simple floating window application. So this is the overview of our application that we are going to create in this video, and as you can see we don't have action bar, and then this is the layout of our app. Now let's write the description. So here we have Abhay, and as I press on the minimize button, here you can see we have our floating window. Now you can drag it and drop it wherever you want, and you can also access the apps from the background. You can open any other app that you want, and this is still accessible, and you can just edit anything, and as you press on this maximize button, whatever you have written is saved here. So this is the app that we are going to create in this video. So let's see how we are going to do it. Now let's create a new project, and I have updated my Android Studio, and that's why it looks like this. So new project, and select empty activity, hit next, and now the name of our app is going to be floating window app, and hit finish. So here is our project now ready. Here we have main activity.kt and activity main.xml file. So the next thing that we'll do is we'll create one more class that corresponds to the floating window activity. So here we have go to new Kotlin class, and let's call it floating window app. Now here we'll write the logic for our floating window, and we also have to create one more Kotlin class called common. Here we'll store, now here in this class we'll store whatever is written inside the edit text so that we can access it when it is in floating mode or it is in normal mode. So here inside it we have a companion object, and it just have one string. So where let's call it current description. It will store the description, and it is of type string, can be null. Initially we'll set it to null. Okay, so that's it, and let's close the common.kt, and also we don't need this. So the next thing is we have to create one more layout file for the floating window. So inside this layout, right click on this, go to new. Here we have this layout resource file. Now name of this file is floating layout. Okay, now here is our floating layout. Also we don't need this right now, and let's go back to activity main.xml. Okay, so here let's change the constraint layout to a relative layout, and also we don't need the constraint for our text view, right? So here is our text view, and the text that we want is geeks for geeks, right? And let's set the size of the text. So text size is going to be 38 sp, and also text style. So text style will be bold, and then center horizontal to true. We have the center horizontal. Let's give the top margin of 200 dp. Yeah, it will be fine. And let's give it id. Id will be head txt. This is going to be the id of this text, and let's change the color of this. So for that we have to create a color resource. So go to project, inside the values, here we have our color. Double click on this. Now first of all copy this and paste it. Name will be GFG green. This is going to be the name of our color, and the color code will be, I have just written here, so I can simply copy it and paste it here. This is the green color, and copy it and paste it again, and this one will be GFG blue, which is our background color. So this is the blue, copy this and paste it. Okay, so here we have green and blue color. So let's go to activity main.xml, and the background color of our relative layout will be blue. Yeah, also the color of the text will be, we have text color which is GFG green. This is the text color. So the next thing that we need is we need an edit text. So here we have the edit text. Width will be match parent and height will be 300 dp, and okay, this one will be always below the head text, right? And give the top margin to 20 dp. Okay, and here you can see here is our edit text. Now let's give left and right margin. So left margin of 20 dp and right margin of 20 dp. Okay, and let's set the hint. Hint will be description. This is the hint that we have here. You can see we have the hint, and let's make this hint at the start of the edit text. We don't want it to be at the middle. So what we can do, we can set the gravity as start. So here you can see we have edit text at the top here. Also we have to create the custom background for the edit text because it is barely visible. So what I can do, I can simply go to project, and here inside the drawable, right click, go to new. Here we have drawable resource file, and let's call it edt description. So instead of selector we have shape, and the first thing that we'll do, will change the shape of the, will change the corner radius. So corner radius is maybe 20 dp. This is the corner radius, and then we have stroke. Stroke color will be white and width will be of 2 dp. Now let's use this background and see how it looks. So here we have the background. Background will be edt description. So this is how our background will look like, and here you can see we need some margin for the description, padding for the description. So padding will be simply 10 dp, and here you can see we have some space. Also the text color inside the edit text will be white because black will not be noticeable with this background. So text color is white. Yeah. Okay, so we are done with the edit text. Now the next thing that we need is we need the button. So we have button, and here width will be 200 dp and height will be wrap content. So here is our button, and as you can see by default we have material design button. So we need the normal one. So inside the values, let's go to the themes, and if you look at here, the theme is material components. We need the normal one. So themes dot app compat dot no action bar, this will be fine. So let's get back to activity main.xml, and here you can see we have the normal button. So the first thing is this button will be below the edit text. So this will be, okay, first of all we have to give the id for the edit text. Id will be edt description. This is the id, and it will be always below edt description, and let's make center horizontal to true and give top margin of 20 dp. So here we have that, and the text over the button will be minimize. This button, we have to click this button to minimize it. So this is how our layout will look, and let's increase the size of this text written over button. So we have text size to 20 sp. Yeah. Also let's create the custom background for our button. So go to project, inside drawable, right click on this, go to new, drawable resource file, and let's call it button background, and here we have shape. Okay, so the first thing is we'll change the corners, and the corner radius is 20 dp, and that's it. Now we'll change the solid, which is color, and Android color, let's use GFG green. Yeah, this one. So let's go to activity main.xml and use this background. So background is we have btn background. Okay, so this is how our layout will look like. Now what we'll do is we'll create the similar layout for our floating window layout, because things are going to be exactly same, just the dimension will not be same, it will be little bit smaller. Okay, so let's copy everything and let's go to here. We have the floating layout, click on this. Okay, so here we simply have to paste everything. Okay, let me just zoom in. Here is our floating window layout, and here we don't need any context for the activity. Remove this, and here, okay, first of all let's go to activity main.xml, and here the top margin won't be 200 dp, it will be simply 150 dp. Yeah, okay, now here in the floating window layout, the top margin will be just 100 dp, and the text size will be 30 sp for GeeksforGeeks, and here also the layout height will be 200 dp, and then here we have the button size. So button width will be 150 dp, and the text size will be default. So yeah, this is how our layout for the floating window will look like. So we are done with our layout. Now we have to make some changes in our manifest file. So go to project, and here is our Android manifest.xml file. Now here we have to ask permission. So here we have user permission, and okay, we don't need this one. Here we have system alert window, we want this permission. Okay, and one more thing, outside this activity block and inside the application block, here we have to define the service and Android name. Here the name of our service will be the class that we have created for the floating window, which is floating window app. So simply copy this and let's go to our manifest file, and here dot, yeah, this is the name of our file, and let's see what is the error. Now here we have to add this attribute, click on this, and the error is gone. So these are the changes that we have to do in our manifest file. So simply close this, and also we don't need the background of button, themes, description and colors. Okay, so let's go to main activity. Now here we need few things. So the first thing that we need is we need to check that if the floating window service is already running or not. So for that we have a function called is service running. This is the function will check, and return type will be boolean, that if the floating window service is already running or not. And the next method that we'll use is we request for the permission of floating window, so which is simply request permission. This is our another method that we need in the main activity. And the last one is we'll check for the Android version. So this method will be check Android version. It will also return the boolean. Now why we have to check the Android version? Because after the Android M we have to ask for the permission, and the Android version below M we actually don't need to request or ask for the permission. We can directly go in floating window mode. So these are the three methods that we are going to define in this class. So let's start with the first one, which is service running. So we have private fun and is service running, and the return type will be definitely boolean. Okay, now here we need a manager. So val manager, and we have to get the system services, get system services, and what kind of service we need? Context dot activity service, and we have to cast it as activity manager. So cast it as activity manager. So this is our manager. Now we will loop through the manager and see if the service is equal to the floating window service or not. So let's see what I'm saying. So for we have service in manager dot get running service. Okay, we need this get running services, although it is deprecated, but it's still working fine, so we can use it. So the integer will pass is int dot max value. So what here I am doing is I am looping through the all running services of the Android app, and if any of the service is equal to the floating window service, then we will return true, else we will return false. So if we have floating window class java dot name, so this is the service name and it is equal to the service that we are using for the loop dot service dot, here we have service, okay, we have class name. Okay, so if they are equal, in that case the floating window service is running, we will return true. Okay, and in the else part we will return false, or we can simply outside the for loop we can return false. So what this method is doing, it will checking that if the floating window service is already active or not. So if it is active, then we have to react differently, and if it is not active, we have to react differently. So we are done with our first method, and the next method was we have to request for the floating window permission. So let's create that method as well. So we have private fun, and let's call it request permission, request floating window permission, floating window permission, and the return type will be boolean for this as well. Okay, now to request a permission we need an alert dialog box. An alert dialog box will open up, and here we can allow this permission. So for that we have to create an alert dialog box. So here in above we define that, so private late init var, and let's call it dialog, and it is of type alert dialog. Okay, so here we will create a builder for alert dialog, so val builder, and this is equals to alert dialog dot builder. Okay, now here we have to pass the context, which is this. Now we have to set that this alert dialog box is cancelable or not. So builder dot set cancelable, and we'll set the cancelable to true. So whenever you press outside the dialog box will simply collapse. And we have to set the title, so builder dot set title will be simply screen overlay permission, screen overlay permission. So this will be okay, it will be screen overlay permission needed, just to be more precise. And then we have to set the message, so set title, we have set message, and here we'll set the message, so display over the app from settings. Okay, so it will say you have to enable the display over app from the setting, and now here we have to provide the positive button. So here we have this positive button. Now what it does, if user press on the positive button, we have to redirect to the settings of the phone where user can give the permission for the screen overlay. So here the first thing is we have to set the text, which is whatever written over the button, it will be open settings. Okay, now the next thing is we have to set an on click listener on this button. Okay, dialog interface dot on click listener, yeah, we need this. So here we have two things, which is dialog and here which select this one. Now here we have to write what we have to do when open setting is pressed. We will create an intent because we have to jump to the setting. So val intent, and this is equals to intent. Now here we have to go inside the settings. First of all, let's import this. So we have to go to settings. So we have setting dot action manage. So manage, we have to manage overlay permission. So it will be redirected to this page in the settings where we can set the permission for the image overlay. So this is the first thing that we need, and then we need is a URI dot parse, and here we have to pass the package name. So here package and then the package name itself. So package name, yeah. So we are done with this. Now we simply have to start activity. For this, start activity, we need start activity for result, although it is deprecated, but it's still working fine, because after the update of Android 4.0, most of the most useful things are deprecated. So we can still use it because yeah, you know, it is just too convenient. So here we simply have to pass the intent. And the next thing that we need is we have to pass an integer, which is result OK, to start the activity for result. So we are done with this request floating window permission. Okay, we are not done yet, because here we have to initialize this dialog as well. So dialog is equals to builder, the builder that we just have created, dot create, and then we have to show the dialog dot show. Okay, so okay, the issue is we don't need this return type of boolean, because we just have to create a dialog where we can go to the settings of overlay permission. So we are done with this request floating window permission as well. Now the next thing, we have to check for the Android version. So here we have this function called, okay, we have private fun, and let's call it check overlay permission. So here check overlay permission, and return type will be boolean. So if the build version or the current Android version is greater than M, in that case we have to ask for permission, else we don't have to. So here return if build dot version dot stk_int is greater than build dot version. Okay, here we have version codes dot m. So if it is greater than m, what we will do, we have to return settings dot can draw overlay. This is what we need, and it asks for the permission, and here you can see the return is boolean, so it will be fine, and the context is this. So this is what we have to return if the current version is greater than m, else we will simply return true. So that's it, we are done with check overlay permission as well. Okay, we have check overlay permission, we have this request for floating window permission, and we also have this method, is the service running or not. So the next thing that I will do is we'll initialize all the view in the first place. We have to initialize this edit text and the minimize button. So first of all, define them, private late init var and button max, which is of type button. Okay, then we have an edit text, so private late init var, let's call it edt description of type edit text. Okay, so inside the on create, button max is equals to find view by id dot id dot button. Okay, what was the id for this? Okay, I haven't set the id, so id will be button max. So r.id.button max. So we are done with the button. Now we have edit text. So edt description is equals to find view by id r.id.edt description. So we have initialized both of the views. Okay, now here we will check if is service running. So when we open our app and this service is already running, in that case we have to stop the service. So if the service running returns true, in that case the service is already running, the floating window is already running. In that case we have a method called stop service, and here it takes intent as an input. So here we have to define an intent. So here intent, and we just have two activities. So what we will do from this @main activity to we have the floating window class. Okay, class.java. So if the service is running, then stop the service. Okay, so the next thing is we have to set the text in the edit description text, and from where we get the text, we'll get it from this class which is called common and have a current description string in it. So here let's go to main activity. Here what we'll do is edt description dot text, and this will be, okay, let's use set text instead. Set text, and what we have to set what is whatever this string is. This string is called current description, so we have current des. Now here we have to import this. Okay, now also we have to set the selection, edit description dot set selection. Now what this set selection is, it will decide the position of the blinker, so it will be at the end of the string. Now here it asks for integer as an input, so we'll give the length of this current description or whatever is inside this edit text. So edt des dot text and convert it to string and return the length. So the set selection or the blinker will be at the end of the string. Okay, so we had set the selection, and the next thing is as we write something in our edit text, at the same time or simultaneously we have to save it in the current description. So as we type something, simultaneously we have to save it to the current description. So what we need here is we have first of all edt des dot add text changed listener. So as the text are changing, at the same time it will keeps storing it in the current description string from the common class. So here we have object. Okay, it is text watcher. We need this text watcher, right? And let's implement all the members. Yeah, so here we have before text changed, we don't need this. On text change, okay, we are interested in this one only, and also we don't want this after text changed method. We are just interested in this one. So it will this method will be evoked when the text is changed. So what we have to do is just we have current description is simply equal to whatever is written in our edit text. So edt dot text dot to string, and that's it. What else we have in our views? So we are done with the edit text. We have handled the logic for edit text. Now we have to handle the logic for the minimize button. So let's go to main activity, and here let's set the on click listener on this minimize button. So we have button. Okay, first of all, it is not button max, it is button min. Okay, let's also change it from here. We have button min. Also change the ID, button minimum or min. Here it is. Okay, so button min dot set on click listener. Okay, not this one. We have dot set on click here. Now here if we have to check that if we need to ask for permission or not. So that method is check overlay permission. So if check overlay permission returns true, so in that case we don't have to ask for permission, that is, it is less than Android M. In that case we will start our service. So we have a method called start service, and here it asks for intent as an input. Now intent, we'll have an intent, so we have to jump from this @main activity, okay, to this floating window app, floating window class Java, right? And also we will finish, because we don't want the previous activity in our memory, so we'll simply finish it. And in the else part we will ask for the permission. In that case we have the latest version of Android, so in that case we have request floating window permission. Okay, so we are done with the main activity. So here let me just brief what we have in a main activity. So the first thing is we have this method is service running, which will check if the floating window service is already running, and if yes then react differently, and if not then react differently. So is service running, then we have floating window permission. Now here if we have a later version of Android than M, in that case we have to ask for the permission, that if we have this overlay permission or not. So we have created the builder alert dialog box for asking the permission. Okay, then we have this check overlay permission, which will simply check that if the Android version is greater than M or not, and return true and false accordingly. Then we have initialized our views, and here we have the text change listener, which will simultaneously save whatever is written in the edit text to this current description. And then we have this minimize button, which will start this intent when clicked. Okay, else if we don't have to ask for permission, then only start this, else request for permission. So yeah, this is what we have in the main activity. Now let's go to floating window.kt file, and here is going to be the core logic for our floating window application. So this class will extend from service. Okay, and okay, here we have to implement a member, and here we actually don't need this, so we'll simply return null over here. Okay, now here we have to define quite a few things that we are going to need in our floating window app. So let's start defining. So here we have private late init var, and this one will be a float view, and this is of type view group. So here is the float view, and the next thing that we need is we need float window layout parameters. So private late init var, and this one is float window layout params. Okay, and it is of type window manager dot layout params, window manager dot layout params. Okay, so here is float view and float window layout params. These two are the most important thing that we actually need to create the floating window application. And the next thing is we need a layout type, so private var, and it is of type integer, so we can't late init this one. So and let's call it layout. Okay, make it capital layout type, and this is of type integer and can be null. Initially we'll set the value to null. Okay, so next thing we need window manager, so private late init var window manager of type window manager, and the next thing is here this whole Kotlin file corresponds to this floating XML file that we have created. So here we have the head text, then we have description, and then the ID for this button will be button max. So after clicking on this button, we have the full window, and let's also change the text. So here we have maximize written over the text. So let's define all the views in floating window. So private late init var, here we have edt description of type edit text, then we have private, okay, we can copy this and paste it. Here we have button max of type button. Okay, what we need first of all, okay, let me make some space. Okay, now here we have to we need this onCreate method. So click on this. Yeah, now here we need the length and width of the current app size, and using this length and width we will create the size of the floating window. So here we have val metrics, and we need to get the metrics, and this metrics will help us to get the width and height. So first of all, application context dot resources and display metrics, then we have width. Okay, not width is simply metrics dot width in pixels. This is how we get the width, and val we have length. Okay, let's call it height is equal to matrix dot width. Okay, we need height pixels. So we have width and height of current application in the normal mode. Okay, now let's initialize our window manager. Window manager is equals to get system services. What kind of services? We need to get the window service and cast it as window manager. Now we have to inflate all the views of floating layout to this floating window XML, because we have no relation in this Kotlin file and this XML file. So for that, what we need is, first of all, we need an inflator. So let's create inflator. So val inflator, and this is equals to base context, and here we have, okay, base context dot get system services first. Okay, not this, get system services, and the service name is layout inflator service, and cast it as a layout inflator. So we can use this inflator and the float view to get access to the views of a floating layout. So what I will do is, here we have the float view, and this float view is equals to inflator dot inflate, and here the layout, so layout is r, so okay, yeah, r dot layout dot, we have this floating layout, and then the root is simply going to be null, we don't need that, and let's cast it as view group. Okay, not view, we need view group because here the type is view group only. So we have the float view. Now we have the access to the views, which are the edit text and the buttons. So here we have, first of all, initialize them. So button max, and it is find view by ID. Find view, okay, we don't have find view, we need the float view to get the find view. So float view dot find view by ID, dot ID dot we have button max, this is the ID for button, then we have an edit text. So edt description is equals to float view dot find view by ID, dot ID dot edt description. Okay, now here we have our button and description. So the text that we have in our description is, when you put in the floating mode, you want is whatever is written in the edit text, you want exactly the same. So edt dot set text, and whatever is written in this common variable, which is current description. So let's import this. So here what we are doing is, okay, in the main activity when we are changing our text. At the same time, it is saving in the current description, and when we are in the floating mode, we are displaying the same text in the edit text. Okay, so here we have the set text. Also, we have to set the selection, which is our blinker set selection, and we have to return the length. So here we simply edt description dot text dot to string and then the length. Okay, the next thing is the edt description dot, we have cursor visibility. So is cursor visible, and we'll set it to false. Okay, so we are done with the button max and the edit text. Now the next thing, here you can see we have this layout type of type integer, but initially it is null. We have to set the value for layout type. Okay, but the problem for the layout type is the value is different for the Android version greater than or equal to Android Oreo, and the value is different for less than Oreo. So let's see how we are going to handle this. So first of all, if we have this build dot version, and okay, version dot sdk int is greater than equal to the Oreo, which is build dot version codes dot o, less than greater than equal to Android Oreo. In that case, we have the layout type. This is equals to window manager dot layout params, and we have this type application overlay, this one. So this will be the value of layout type when it is greater than or equal to Oreo, else the value for this is, so copy this, but instead of type application overlay, we need type application, okay, not type application, type toast. Okay, this thing is also deprecated. It was just fine in the previous version of Android, but right now it is deprecated, but it is still working, so we can use it as of now. So here we have our value for layout type. Now finally we can initialize our floating window manager. That's the main thing for the floating window itself. So here we have this on create, and inside the on create, floating window layout params, and this is equals to window manager dot layout params, and here we have to pass quite a few things. Here you can see we have integer and flags and everything. So whatever we have defined above, we have to pass it here. Okay, now the first two things is going to be the integer value, that is the length and the width and the height of the new window, because we are in the floating window mode, and the floating window is a little smaller than the normal one, so we have to define the new height and width. So whatever our width that we have got here using matrix, so here we have width, and let's multiply it by 0.55 float value. So what it does, it will be whatever the current width and multiplied by 0.55, which is almost half, is going to be the new width of the layout of the floating window layout, and we have to convert it to integer. Okay, so this is the width and now height. So same for the height as well. So copy this and paste this, but it will be height, not width. So we have height and width. Now we need layout type and make it null safe. And then the next thing is we have to add flag. So we have window. I will tell you what this flag is. So window manager dot layout params dot flag not focusable. So what it does, when you are in the floating window mode, this says you are not focusable. That means your focus will be in the background app and not in the main app that we have. But here if we do that, there will be a problem that we are not able to type something over the edit text because the focus is not on the app, rather it is in the background. Although this problem is solved later, and I'll show you how to solve this problem. And the last thing is we have to set the pixel format. It is very important. So we have pixel format and we'll select the translucent one. Okay, so here we have our new floating window layout. So first of all, let's set the gravity. So we have just we make it small, but we have to set where it will go in the screen. So it will be at the center of the screen according to us. So floating window params dot gravity, and let's set the gravity to gravity dot center, and also we have to set the x and y axis before we test this thing. So floating window params dot x, and this is 0. We just want it to be perfectly center, and floating window params dot y, and it is also equal to 0. Okay, we are at the good place to test our app and see if we are getting in the floating window mode or not. So now let's run the app. So here is our app up and running. So let's enter the description. So here it says Abhay. Okay, now let's click on this minimize button and see if it's working. And here you can see it asks for the permission because my current this emulator is Android 10. So it asks for the permission, and let's go to this open settings, and we are at display over other apps. So allow this, go back, and then press on the minimize button. Okay, it's still not working yet, and let's see what is the issue. So one thing that I have missed is finally I have to add the view to the window manager. So here the window manager that we have defined above, here we will add view, and here it takes two things, the float view and the float window layout layout parameters. And now let's run this again, and this time hopefully it will be fixed. So here is our app up and running. Now let's enter the description. So it says Abhay. Now let's press on the minimize button, and as you can see this thing is minimized, but we have to do some work on this layout because it's not acceptable at all. Okay, the fact is it is working, but one thing is you cannot move this thing. It is just at the center of the screen. So let's first of all let's fix the layout. So first of all go to the floating layout, and here the text size is first of all it needs to be 25 sp. Also it is not bold, and here okay, so the top margin, let's set the top margin to 70 dp. Yeah, and then we have this maximize button. So let's reduce the size, so it will be width will be 120 dp, and that's it. Now let's run this and see if this thing is now working or not. So here is the app. Now let's write Abhay and let's press on the minimize button. So this thing is minimized, and as you can see the text is also there. This is due to because we are saving this in the runtime. Okay, now here okay, you cannot edit anything because we have set the focus outside. And let's see if we can access the apps in background. Okay, we can access apps in the background. Here you can see you can open another app, you can do whatever you want. So this thing is working. Now the next thing that we have to work on is we have to, when we press on the maximize button, we have to go back to the normal mode. So let's see how we are going to do that. So let's go to floating window app.kotlin file, and here we have to set the on click listener on the maximize button. So button max dot set on click listener. Now here we have to write the logic for making our app back to normal. So here we have a method stop self. Okay, now if you look at this method, now here we have the little detail about the app. Here it says stop the service if it was previously started. So our service is already started, and calling this stop self method you can stop it. So this is what this method does. Okay, so close this. So first thing, we have to stop self, and then we have to remove view from the window manager that we have added here. So window manager dot remove view, and then we'll pass our float view. Okay, and at the same time we need to have an intent to jump back to the normal app. So val, and let's call it back, and this is equal to intent, and we have to jump from this at the rate or name of this file, which is floating window gfg, to, okay, it's not this, floating window app, to main activity class java, and then we have to add the flag as well. So back dot add flag. So here we have two flags. Okay, let me write the flags, then I'll explain what they are. So intent dot flag, and this one will be activity. We have activity new task. So okay, I think I have to write a bit more, new task, and the next one is we have intent dot flag. Okay, here it is or. In Kotlin we use or, not or operator. So intent dot flag activity clear top. Okay, so this one is a flag activity clear top, will clear the activity stack and put the current activity at the top. Okay, then we have this new task. It will return if we already have the reference of the previous activity, and if not, then it will create a new reference for the activity that we have to open. Okay, this is what flag will does, and we simply have to start activity and pass the intent that we, okay, not this, not intent, it is back, which is the name of our intent. Okay, so as we press on this button, we are back to the original form. So let's run the app and see if it is even working or not. So here is the app up and running. So let's enter Abhay and let's press on the minimize button. Okay, so this thing is minimized and we can access apps in the background. Here you can see we have our second app opens, and as I press on this maximize button, we are back to the original form. So this thing is working. So again, go back to minimize, and here let's, okay, we have still no access to write something over here, and also we cannot just move this thing. So let's see how we are going to handle that. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll also have to add the text change listener. So when you are in the floating window mode, you can change something in the text, and that needs to be reflected in this common string. So we can copy it from the main activity. So here we have this, copy this, and outside this on click listener we can paste it. So everything is going to be exactly same. Now the next thing that we'll handle is we'll have to add the feature for changing our floating window. So for that we have float view dot set on touch listener, this one, and then we have object on touch listener. Now we have to implement the members. Now here we have to write the logic that what we have to handle when we have the touch event. But before that, we need an updated floating window layout parameter because the positions are changed. Val updated float window layout param. So this one is updated, and initially I will set it to whatever the previous was, and then we will update it. Okay, now here inside this onTouch we have to use this event to get the actions. Now here we'll use the when statement, which is similar to the switch statement. So when event dot actions. Now we have to, okay, let's make it null safe. Now when this action is action down, so first of all motion event dot action down. So in that case, now here we need the x and y of original one, which is of this floating window layout params, and then we have the new x and y coordinates. So first of all, let's define all of them. So val x, this one was original, initially set it to 0.0 because this one is going to be double or float, and then we have, okay, so simply copy this and paste it 4 times. So first of all we have val y, this is also the original one. Then we have px new one, initially 0 only, then py, which is the length for the new one. So first of all get the x, which is float window, we have updated floating window layout parameter dot x and convert it to double first of all, and same for y. Okay, we have error. Okay, this thing needs to be var, not val. So copy this, paste here, here and here. Okay, and same for y. So y, and this is also going to be y. So here we have the original one, now the new one. How we'll get the new one? Px is equals to, we'll use the event to get the new one. So event dot raw x dot to double. This is going to be the new px, and py is equals to same as that, event dot raw y dot convert it to double. So this is the new x and y coordinate that we have. Now again, when we have motion event dot action move, so in that case what we have to do, we have to set the new px and py to this updated layout window parameters. So here we have updated floating window layout parameter dot x, and this is equals to, here we have to do a little math to get to set the position, that is x plus event dot raw x minus px new position, and then convert it to integer. So this is going to be the new x of updated floating window layout parameter, and same is for y as well. So instead of x we need y. Also it is raw x, okay, raw y, and it is py, and convert it to int. This is our updated parameters, and then again we have to update our view using window manager. Window manager dot update view layout, and then we have the same view, but this time the floating window is updated, floating window parameter, so which is updated float window layout param. So that's it. And okay, here we have to return something, so we'll simply return false. So now let's run the app, test it, and see if we are if we can now move it or not. So here is our app up and running. Now let's enter Abhay and let's click on the minimize button and let's try to shift it, and it is working. So you can shift it wherever you want, and then you can access the apps in the background. So as you can see, this thing is working fine. Now the next thing is we have to we can also change the text when it is in the floating window mode. So let's see how we are going to handle that. So when we press on the edit text when we are in the floating window mode, we have to we need to access the edit text, right? So for that we have to set the touch listener on the edit text. So edt des dot set on touch listener, and then we have object on touch listener. So we have to implement the members first of all. Okay, so here we have that. So first of all we have to make our cursor visible. So edt description dot is cursor visible, because we have set the cursor invisible when we are in the floating window mode. If you can see, yeah, here, right? So let's first of all make it visible. So it is visible, set it to true. So the next thing is we will create an updated floating layout parameter. So updated float params flag, because it will store some flags for us. And okay, let's call it this flag, and initially we'll set it to simply float window layout params. Now let's define flags for this. So copy this and paste it dot flags, and let's here we have to set some flags. So we need two flags. So the first one is window manager dot layout params dot flag not touch model, not touch model, this one. Or we also need window manager dot layout params dot flag layout in screen, flag layout, we have this in screen. Now these two flags will remove the focus from the background of the floating window and set the focus on the current app which is in the floating mode, and we'll have now access to the edit text and we can edit them. Again we have to update the view. So window manager dot update view layout will pass in the float layout and this updated. So copy this and paste it. So we have that, and here we can see the return type is boolean, so return false. Okay, and yeah, that's it. We are done with this on touch listener, and in the end we have to call one more method, which is on destroy method. On destroy. Okay, it needs to be outside the on create, so remove it from here, and here let's call it on destroy. So remove everything from the memory when it is destroyed. So first of all stop self, and I have already discussed what this stop self is, and at the same time window manager dot remove view and pass the float view to clear everything from the memory when it is destroyed. So let's run the app and see what we have. So here is the app up and running. Now let's enter Abhay and let's press on the minimize button, and it is minimized. I can shift it wherever I want. I can access the apps from the background, and here let's see if we can edit something, and we can edit something. So here we have cursor, and let's write my full name and press on the maximize button, and this thing is still here. So here, okay, I go back to minimize and we can shift it like we want, and as I press on the maximize button we are back to the original form of the app. So we have created the app which is floating window application. So that's all about this video, and subscribe to Geeks for Geeks for more Android app videos. So that's it for this video, and hope to see you in the next video.